go, guys. So I have just reopened my project. Let me open up my level back. Okay. Now, so if I go back here to the content main variables items, let's open up the DT inventory item list. And now we have a new field called item picker, right? So we can select the wood item picker here, or remember that you can always go back here to blueprints, items, select the wood picker, and make sure it is selected in that. And now, that's the fun part. So we're gonna go to where it's saying components, open up the PPC inventory. That's just taking a while. Right, cool. So when we are dropping the item, right, when we are actually dropping the item here, we kind of need to instantiate the item afterwards. So we have to find a way to spawn that item in the word with those properties and sets and stuff, right? So I'm gonna do it a way in here first, and then after we're just gonna refactor the code to make sure we can reuse that method once over and over again, right? Right. So remember that at this point, after you remove the item, you don't have access to that anymore. So we got the index here. So what I'm gonna do here is I am just gonna get, so I got the item here, right? What I'm gonna do here, let me just make it, maybe I don't even need to reuse that. I can just do it straight in here. Let me just get this here, right? So I'm gonna, we already have these break items options in here, which is nice. So remember that we had the item picker. So what I can do here is I can drag from here and call a method called spawn actor from class, right? And because it's doing that class, I kind of know which, we do know which class is coming up in there, because this is a BP based whatever. So I'm gonna plug the true on here, right? Then we're gonna spawn the item here. There is just one more thing that we have to do here that I forgot, which is basically we're gonna go to main blueprints. We're gonna open up the BP base item, and we're gonna make sure the quantity is set to public, right? Which it is. And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna actually get, we're gonna set here, set quantity to, let me just carry on with this. So the ideal quantity you want to set up is the one that is actually coming from here. So it's that stack that's coming here. So let me just double click in here so we can actually make this a little bit more readable. Otherwise it's just looking like a spider web. Right, so I'm just gonna put this here. So we're gonna make sure that the quantity the player can pick up again is that. If you press play, if you press compile, it's gonna throw an error because now we need to put this. We need to basically set up the span transform that we wish to set this up here. So what I wanna do now is I think we can. Let me see if we have access. Well, we don't have access to the player, but right, what we can actually do here is this requires a transform that we can actually spawn on the player. And if you notice right now we got no transform that we can spawn the item. So what I'm gonna do here is if I open up my player, we need to find a place or a way to a point where we can actually spawn this. So if I go back here to the components, sorry, actually let's go to the player. Let's open up the character And let's see if there's something here that we can actually add that will make us easy to work with this, right? So normally the best way to do something like this is open up your character, and we're gonna add a new component called arrow. And the arrow component is just for things like this, that just so we have orientation where we want to spawn the item. Let's say we want to spawn the item more or less here, right? So we're gonna call this item spawn, right? Item spawn, and if I'm not mistaken, if I, for example, get this, is an arrow component object reference, right? So if I compile and save, so go back to my inventory here, right? We're gonna create another variable, and we're gonna call the spawn point, right? And the spawn point can be a component, but I think let's try with actor component first, and then and make sure that this is public, right? And what I'm gonna do here is on the player where we start the inventory here. Yeah, we got the inventory here. So what we're gonna do here is we got the player reference. So we're gonna get how's it called? We're gonna get the inventory component, and we're gonna set spawn point to be our arrow component here. There you go. That should work. So what we're doing here is that we are making sure, okay, the arrow component, oh sorry, the arrow component is not visible. So let me just double check as item to spawn. That's it. That's visible. The item to spawn is the arrow that we're trying to spawn here. So we just want to spawn the item at this location attached to this character. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. So we kind of can do this, which is no problem. Right. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna press compile and save. I'm gonna go back here to the BPC inventory, and now we have the spawn point. Right. So the spawn point here is going to be we're gonna get actor, get location, word transform. Yeah, that's fine. Get word transform, or maybe we can get location word. So we're gonna get word relative transform. I am not 100% sure if this is gonna work properly. Get a transform. Right. Let's try this. Let's see what's gonna happen first, and let's see if this is actually gonna drop the item at the right position. Compile and save. And what is the error now? Right, so we kind of have to do an interface requirement, which is not ideal. So what we're gonna do here then, let's do it in a better way then. Okay, because this is throwing a couple of errors, so we need to make sure that what we can actually do here. Let me just do it so we can make it work for us. So we're gonna get a controller. So we do need the arrow here, which is fine. So leave the arrow there. That's good. Compile and save. So from the player controller, we're gonna get a player reference. So this returns a player controller object, right? So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna have to create an interface. That's fine. Don't worry, guys. So we're gonna go to browse assets. I'm gonna go to BPC inventory interaction. We're gonna create a new function, and I am gonna create an interface called get spawn point or something. And this is gonna have an output, which is gonna be a transform, right? And this is gonna be transform. Nice. Compile and save. Right. So this is integrated, I think, maybe, hopefully it will be on the player controller. Let me open up here the components, players. Let's go, where is the character? Let's open up the controller. And I think we have implemented that interface here, which we don't. So, okay, it's not that yet. So I think we can get in here. We can get the controller. We can get owner, I think. Let me just do a print here, guys. I just want to make sure that we have access to the player. If I have access to the player, that means that we can actually use that interface straight on the player without having to use the controller. That does not have access to the player. That's fine. But we go have access to the controller. So we're going to have to implement the interface on the controller. So the controller have access to the player, and then we can actually do all sorts of stuff. Nice. So we got access to the RPG controller. Right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the RPG demo controller. To the demo controller, sorry, not the character. We're going to implement the interface, which is the BPI inventory interaction, right? And that's going to have two interfaces. So the one we want to implement is this here, get spawn point. So we got that here. And now we got the player reference. So we get the player reference here. We're going to get spawn point, get spawn, or yeah, so why is that not coming up? Item oh, so it's gonna call spawn point. It's a mistype that, right? It's gonna rename this arrow to spawn point just so it makes more sense what it is. I'm gonna get spawn point, right? Point. Spawn point. Why I cannot get this? Get spawn points. There you go. Right. Now what I want to do here is get word transform. Transform. And I just want to plug this here. Nice. So I'm going to compile and save. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my BPC inventory. And I am just going to call that interface, which is called I get spawn point message. And that if this works properly, we should have some information coming right here. Let me press play. You should see a bunch of weird numbers coming on the page, which it is. Nice. Let's see if that's actually working as we walk through. Yeah, it does give different values. Nice. Right, so I'm gonna explain you guys what I did here, just in case you guys got lost, because I thought that I could do in a certain way, but that didn't work properly. So what I did here is I have created an interface which is gonna be used to return a spawn point, right? So we're gonna return a spawn point that we can use to spawn the item, right? Because our BPC inventory is attached to a player, or to even our AI sometimes could have an inventory, but any kind of actor may have a controller. In this case, we just stricter to player controller, but that could be an AI controller. But we try to access a method using an interface in the player controller, which is called let me go back here, which is called I get spawn point, right? Because it's an interface implemented. In here, you can add your custom logic if you want to get from a different thing, or if you want to get that location to appear always in the same place. You could always add this in here, right? but right now we are returning this spawn point, which is attached to our RPG character. And once again, the reason why I'm using interface is because this could be anything you like. This could be any logic that apply to your character specific. On my case, that's the easiest way I can think to return a proper transform. And that's passing that transform in here that we can actually use now that in here to drop the item. So if everything that we did is correct, we should be able to see the item dropping up in front of the player, which it is. Nice. So we kind of got, is it 2 again? Nice. It's 2, 2, 2. There we go. Delete. There we go. Nice. So we kind of have the information coming up and returns 8. And yeah, I think we got this working properly. So I'm very happy with this logic here. Let me just gonna put this here on the sides. Just gonna make sure I organize this a little bit properly. What I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna make sure that this on spawn item picker, right? Nice. Compile and save. And yeah, guys, so right now we have very basic logic in here where we drop the item. So get the item, get the item, get the item again, drop the item. There we go. Got 8 items again. So what I want to do here before we finish the video is that I just want to make sure we can drag and drop the item. And then like what I want to do here is I just want to be able to drag this item and drop, and then we can actually get this thing working, right? So pretty much like a Warcraft as well. You can drag and drop items around. So let's do this then. So to do that, we're gonna go here to main. We're gonna go to UI. We're gonna go to inventory, and we're gonna open the slot item thing here. Right, so what I want to do here is I want to do something that is called on drag detect. So I want to make sure that when the player start to drag something around, we can actually create some kind of representation that will tell us what we're trying to do. Right. So what we're trying to do here right now is we're going to try to drag and drop the item. So we're going to go here to graph. Remember to open up the slot item. Go to functions, and we're going to search for something here called on drag detect. So we have here on drag detect. Right. So what we can do here is just do a print for now. Print string. Let's see if this works. Let's see if we can actually make sure that this is not actually returning anything. I think it's because we need to kind of let's do the whole thing here and then see if it's a bug or something that we can actually try to detect in here. Right.